that it's recording. I had a problem with recording last night. It is recording now, so thank you for inviting me to make this presentation. I'm Jeffrey Schneider. I'm an assistant professor of computer programming over in the engineering and IT division, and I am here to talk to you about a program called Sway. And Sway is, well, I need to give you a little background on this. I've been, for a long period, I've been fighting Microsoft. I just didn't like, I was always rooting for the underdog. And after a little while, I did get to grow on. I ended up growing into Microsoft. My first text editor was a few years ago. It was called WordPerfect 5.1. So I don't know if you can remember back to that or not. And eventually we ended up migrating to Word. And after that, I became a Microsoft snob. I use Excel all the time. I use Word quite a bit. I use Access as a hobby database, which I bet you never heard those two terms together. And it gives me a lot of what I need in programming. I'm able to click on the mouse and I'm able to look at menus and I see the ribbons and all. And so I decided to take a look at this thing that's called Sway. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you if you don't mind. And I'm going to stop this. This is Sway. Okay, the first thing I noticed about it when I started messing with this a couple years ago, and quite frankly, I played with it for a couple hours and then dumped it because it's not what I'm used to from Microsoft. I'm not a picture kind of guy. Everything that I do in my classes is coding related, and so I don't really have any classes that would use graphics like this one. I try to avoid PowerPoint because it doesn't give me what I really need. I need to actually interact with the students. But I do have my success class, and my success class can be geared a little bit more toward graphics than I currently have, and that's what I'm intending to do. And honestly, when I was offered the chance to do this, I test drove this program on the department for the division a week ago Friday. We had a meeting similar to this, but within the EIT division, and the reception that I got from Sway was actually more than I was expecting. I didn't like it at first because it doesn't have any of the bells and whistles that you can see up front, but they're hidden. And Sway can be downloaded to your hard drive, or you can run it on the web, and that's where I run it, is off the cloud. I misspoke. And so I can access this from any of the computers anywhere around. And for me, it's kind of changed the way that I look at graphics. I started, and I'll show you how we actually add to this, but you start working on it, and after a while, you realize that the lack of tooling, or the apparent lack of tooling, is really not a detriment. It's all in how you want to view, or it's all in how you want to solve your problem. So what I want to do first is run you through my sway about the solar system. Two things about this: I am not a solar system specialist, and I'm also not a sway specialist. This is basically just to get you an idea of what the thing is capable of, and I'd be willing to work with anybody who's interested in exploring this. It is free with our Microsoft Office suite tools. You actually get to it through your Microsoft Office 365 webpage. And if you scroll down the left side of the screen, you'll eventually stumble into something called Sway. A Sway is the software, and it's also the product, kind of like Xerox. You used to Xerox something off, and you used a 0x to do it, well, you're using sway to create a sway. And the idea behind it is that we're using cards. The key concept here, the unit is a card. So we have a card that is a title card, and then we have headings, and all of these are cards, and I'm breaking up my presentation into each planet has its own card. And within that card, you do different things, and we'll show you some of that here shortly. I'm going to go ahead and play this for you. And as it's running, it's cycling through kind of like PowerPoint does. The difference between it is that it adapts itself to the screen that it's being presented on. So as you see here, it's actually walking its way up the screen, and now it's showing the solar flare. And if I were to mail this to you, you would see it in a different way because it would adapt itself to whatever I'm looking at. And while that's chewing away, I'm actually going to try to find it in my email because I sent it to myself to give you an example of what this thing looks like. So I will load that up while that. We have a comparison slide that we can look at the sun in ultraviolet and in natural light. That actually ran through a little faster than I was expecting. Here's Mercury. And we have, as you can see, it's moving on the screen. This is actually another sway within a sway. And I'm going to let it go ahead and cycle through, and it'll take me back to the original. All right, and so now we have a picture of Venus. And that does not look like a fun place to live. And then here's a picture of Venus transiting the sun. And I spelled transiting wrong. Please don't look at that down at the bottom there. All right, and here's a comparison between Venus and Earth. It's a cool little tool that groups two pictures together and allows you to scroll it back and forth to see the differences. And of course, we've got Earth. These are all common, they're all the commons. I forgot the community commons pictures that I download off the internet. It actually has a hook into Bing. So when you're trying to look for slides, it will allow you, you're trying to look for content for the slide, it will link you to Bing. You can embed movies. So we have a video here of the first sounds recorded on Mars, which you could actually play, but I won't. It's 12 minutes long. The moons of Mars. And the asteroid belt. And some of the asteroids, these are a composite picture that I found off the internet. And by the way, if you do have any questions, scream out. This is actually, there's actually a GIF file here, but it's not showing the asteroid scooting through the middle of the image. There's Jupiter. And the moons of Jupiter compared to our moon. And here's Jupiter's red spot. Gives you an idea of what you can do with the comparison. Saturn. Moons of Saturn. Uranus. I don't know who named that planet. Did you know that Uranus had a ring around it?
I did. So my husband is a amateur astronomer, so he will.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, Well, this subject lended, it just struck me. In grad school, they always told us that you should do a project periodically that was not something that you were normally comfortable with. And so this is something that I like to spend time with. I enjoy studying astronomy. I have not invested much into it. I do still say Pluto is a full-blown planet. I'm one of those deniers. I'm a Pluto. Um, I'm a purist, so I don't believe it's a mini planet. But then it did get me into looking at comets and the outer reaches of the solar system. The fact that Voyager 1 and 2 are both exiting the solar system just is amazing to me. I think personally, I think that like the Hubble is where the future is for us. I know that Elon Musk and a lot of other people want to actually go to Mars, but to me, I would rather spend money on robots on Mars. I consider the idea of me going all the way to Mars in a Dodge Caravan with 5 other people for 2-year trip, not something I really want to experience. I don't know if you're familiar with this, the Kuiper Belt, which is just outside the solar system. And then there's another one called the Oort cloud, which is there's the heliopause, which is the edge of the solar system. And here's another view of the edge of the solar system. That's how there's a lot of heat out there past the heliopause, and that's how heat and radiation. That's how the Voyager knew it had left the. Here's the Terminator, the heliopause, the bow shock, and then there's a hydrogen wall, and there's where Voyager is. And then the Oort cloud is where the comets hang out. And then if we go out a little bit further, you can see Alpha Centauri, which is our nearest neighbor, but you knew that because I'm sure your husband, if your husband's anything like me, it'd say, hey, look at this, at this. So, okay, and then that's the end of the story. So what I'm wanting to show is how easy this thing is to work with. So for instance, if I click on my storyline, and let's say that I wanted to add another image of Venus, for instance. So what I could do is I could click on the card, I can go to storyline, and I could insert, and in this case, it's already looked up. It knows that I'm looking for Venus, and so I could just grab one of these and drop it in. And now I've got a view of, now I've got this item in my list, in my card. And so then I can click on this and I go to this thing called focus points and I tell it what's interesting to me. What I want to make sure is on the output. And so then I just click off of it and I can put a caption in here if I wanted to, another view, and I can emphasize it or accent it. Notice it doesn't ask me for the font size or bold or anything like that. That's what the emphasize and accent is. And now if I want to see what this card looks like, I just click on design and it'll walk me through. These are this is the other view. And then we can also click on this and here's this Venus transiting the sun. So it's very functional, and the part that's the most difficult for me is that it's trying to do all the work by itself. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up my phone and see if I can give you a view of what this looks like on my phone. I won't go through the whole thing, but we will take a look at, this is what, let's see if I can focus it. I'm sorry, I don't have any better way of showing it to you. Let me turn off the background effects and see if that helps me. Where do I have that? Apply background effects. Yeah, let me turn them off and see if that helps us. So it is the sway, but it is adjusted for the phone, and it does any other. I haven't tried it on my wife's iPad. I don't normally get to touch the iPad, so there's a game on there I don't get to touch, and so she would be able to view this as well. And we'll jump back into the screen again and screen share, and put the sway up. And now the other thing that we can do with this is if we go up here, we can actually do some settings for it. And this is where you can change the layout of the which direction the text moves in. We can also check whether or not we want the visitors to be able to, or viewers to be able to work with this. And then also I can, if I click on design, I click on styles, and I can actually pick and change the entire format of it. And the program basically goes through and looks at it to determine what would be the best look. And it's very, very good at it. I'm super impressed with it, how it's doing it. So for instance, in this case, it's all black and white. We'll bring the color back into it, and notice that I've got this up here at the top. I chose this particular style because it gives a little bit more contrast, and so it's a little more accessible than other of these. And the accessibility of it, I haven't actually messed with very much, but I do know that it's supposed to be more accessible than the PowerPoint is. All right, and you can actually change the way. I'm stuck on slides. You could change the way that you present it. So if you wanted to present it in a horizontal format, you can actually do that, and these screens will show up. Let me get rid of the styles piece here, and the screen.
Can you show me real quick how you got to styles? Because I'm trying to create one at the same time. Will you?
Oh, sure.
Show me?
Sure. What I did was I was sitting in storyline, and then upper left-hand corner, you click on design, and then way over on the right, it says styles. I didn't know this was going to turn into I like this.
I got it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. And then now I don't care for the horizontal or vertical, but that's just me. So you can actually play it, and I don't know exactly how it's setting up the spacing and all of that. Like I said, I don't really care for it, but it's available. I'm not the only one that works with this stuff, and so it's available to you. And so whichever way you want to do it. Now the vertical, I didn't care for it either, but that's again just my preference. I had a problem getting it to, see, I haven't played with it enough to get the horizontal to work the way I want it to. I want more picture there, and I'm fighting it. I'm fighting it is my big problem. So I just put it back on slides. And if you want to play roulette with it, you can actually click on this remix, and it'll go out and it'll redo it for you. It'll give it whatever. I don't know the algorithm of how it figures out the layout of it, but I know that it's interesting. And if you just keep clicking remix, it'll take you to a different style, different style than you might have. And you could just basically cycle through it. If you don't like any of it, you just click on the one that I had picked originally, and it brings me right back to it. Okay. And again, it's pretty simple to add to the storyline. If you wanted to, like in the, if I wanted to come down here and add a comment, there we go. So all I would have to do is click in this card, and we have this plus sign, and we just go ahead and insert content, And if I wanted to insert, one of the more interesting things is if I wanted to insert a stack, all right? And so this stack, I could look for comments. Ellie's comment. And I could put a couple of, let's see, did I put that in the right spot? I could put a couple of these in here, and then I tell it how I want to display this. Okay, so I look at it, and this is a group stack. So if I click on design, I get forward and back, or leafing through, I suppose would be a better term for it. If I wanted, I can change that. I could change that grouping to be, a group type of grid. All right, and then if we look at the design of it, you can see that it's now in a grid form. All right, and I've actually stuck too many of these together. So what I should do is I should grab this, pull it out, and actually add it in between. That's not where I wanted it to go. No, that's not where I wanted it to go. That's now in the wrong spot. So we'll put it back in here. You can move things around quite a bit and emphasize it so it'll actually make this larger. And there we go. That's what I wanted to do. Okay. So you can create a group. You can insert a group. If you need to, you can create a group thusly. If I click on the Hubble Deep View and I click on that checkbox, and then I click down here on the checkbox for the pillars of creation, I could make that a group. They already are, so I won't be able to show you that piece of it, but you can group these items together if you want and move them around wherever you want to. The storyline is where you're going to do a lot of the work, and then the design side is where you're going to look at your results. Okay, and so it's the thing. Like I said, this what drives me crazy about this is, like, there's no right mouse button. This is a web program, and so you don't use the right mouse button. So that's the first thing I had a problem with, is that you can't use the right mouse. But then when you start looking at it, you realize, that's not such a big deal. I'm actually not having a problem with it because I can do lots of fancy things with the thing. Just the way, oh yeah, I didn't like that. Should have got rid of that. So I'll move this back. Where will I move it? Move it out of there. There we go. Okay, and so it's little nuances like that where clicking on this button, you kind of have to wait for it to catch up to you to know what's going to happen next. So for instance, if I wanted to insert a card in between these two, I would run my mouse up in between the two and click on it. And then if I did a heading 1, this would be, what do I want to say here? This would be, I don't know, the Webb telescope. Okay, and so the first level is it's basically starting a new card. And then what I want to do is add some content to it. So I can add any of these items, which would be heading, text, image, stack, or I could go into text and actually add a second level heading. Or if I wanted to grab a media, so let's say that I had a video like that video for the first sounds of Mars, where the thing is actually just driving itself. You can grab it, use it as a video, or if you have an audio file, you can use that. And if you have another sway, you can embed that sway into this using embed. Because if we go up to share, I can get a embed code for my sway, copy it to the clipboard, and then you can actually link it to another sway. So for instance, I told you that I had, I'm going to go to my sways. I had Mercury as a sway that was embedded into the solar system. So if I click on Mercury and I go up here to share and I grab the get embed code, copy it to the clipboard, close this. Now I go back and open my sways again, and I grab solar system, and I roll down to Mercury. I'm gonna, oops, sorry, I clicked that too many times. I'm going to actually try to delete this one. Not that, we're going to delete this card. Okay, so we'll delete it. Now I'll add it back in, and I want to add some media and embed, and then I just click down here and Control V and added that little emphasis to it. And so now what I've got is I've got a sway that's calling another sway. Okay. Now, because I'm who I am, I'm a programmer and I'm a troublemaker and a rabble rouser, I have discovered that you can create a sway in a sway that calls another sway. All right, so if you drill them down deep enough, you need to have 3 sways. The first one will call the second one calls the third one calls the first one, and it'll run until you run out of memory. Okay, so you can. I was surprised that you could do that, but you can actually overload the machine if you want to. I don't know if Microsoft knows that has that capability, but there you go. And so this is basically a very basic sway that's already been built. If you want to see, oh, sorry, we should have just done create new. We can create new, which is what I did to get the solar system, or we could actually start from a topic. And so in this case, we'll do railroad and locomotives. Now, I'm not sure exactly what I get with this because I haven't taken the time to play with it. So this is just one more avenue for me to go run down. And so what it's done is basically it's starting to give me gives me a topic that I can chase down. Now, because this is cloud-based, it's saving it for me already. So I can click on create a new sway, and this will have stored the other sway. So if I create another one, this will be another sway, and just save that, go in, take a look at my sways, you can see that it has saved it and put it up in here where the most were the ones that I've edited in the past. And then you could also start from a document if you wanted to. And I have not messed with that one either. I spent on this solar system, just to see what if, I managed to spend something on the order of 12 hours on this thing, just adding and then tweaking it and moving things around. And it gets kind of addictive, actually. Once you've come to the understanding of how these cards are used, it gets quite addictive. How can I make it do this? How can I make it do that? It also has the capability of there are some templates that you could pick up if you wanted to. And then there are other lessons if you were looking for, you wanted to see how someone else did this. It's a dynamite way to do that. They have a whole bunch of them that are available for you that from the Microsoft educator community. And the other thing is that Sway has a ton of videos online that are helpful. the downside to this is I don't know what the long-term plan is for Microsoft and Sway. It is not a super big seller. I don't believe. As far as I know, I'm the only one that stumbled across this on campus, and it was strictly because that's my personality. If I see something that nobody else is interested in, I tend to go explore it a little bit, and so that's how I ended up working with this. So it is a very interesting. It has some interesting capabilities that I would just say you have to kind of go explore them to really see if it does what you want it to do. And again, I have a bit of a bias that I don't do a lot of graphic work in my classes, but there are some interesting possibilities that you can get with this. You can embed other items to it. I think you can embed a Word document. I believe you can embed a spreadsheet. I haven't taken the time to play with that part of it because that could take me down another bunny hole that I'm not sure I'm ready to explore.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing what it even is. I personally have never opened it up until today. So as you did the presentation, I opened it up and it allowed me to, open an actual document and put it in there. And it just makes it visually so much more appealing. So I can be using, it in so many different ways. I just plugged in a document that I have for all the high impact practice codes. Okay. And it looks so beautiful. I'm thinking,
really? Okay, good.
So it's better for marketing purposes and things like that because I don't have any kind of background in graphic art, in graphic design. So I think it could be very useful.
Well, let me take you back in here for just a second, and we'll take a look at it because I can actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to you, so I can share it, and I can invite people to view. And if let's see, more options. No, I can do this. I can copy that and then mail it to you. Okay, and then open it up. And it even brings over the clip art for it. Okay, and so I can send that to you. And so you should be able to actually open it up. So if you wanted to, send it to someone, you can actually use the email to send it. Also, if you share, you can share it with Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, I think. And there is supposed to be a way that you can export this to a PDF file. And I did this once, but I didn't really pursue it because PDF files I don't use them a lot. But it will, 33 pages long, holy cow. Okay, and so it's actually going to drag some of the comments that the captions over with it. Okay, so that's available to you too.
Yeah, I just saw where you just click on export your Sway and you can export to Word or a PDF. So that's awesome.
Right. So there it is. This was my presentation for today. And what I would like to encourage you is if you do use it and find some utility in this, I'd like if you'd drop me a line telling me what you did with it. I'm curious as to whether or not this sparks other people's curiosity and whether or not it's something that you might want to pursue. Because as I said, it's not super functional for me, but maybe it's just because I haven't thought of how I could spin it in a different way for my class. And I'm always trying to get it so that the students learn more. And if this works, I'd be interested to find out if anybody's used it. I don't know Personally, I haven't explored a lot of the other systems that we've talked about before with the, what's the one that they're talking about starts with an A. I can't remember the program that the college is looking at buying. I don't know if this compares to that. It's better. I think it's better than PowerPoint, but it may not be as good as some of the other things that the college is looking at. But it's free. It comes with the Office suite, and you've already got access to it. So for some that might be quick and relatively painless, that might be a way for you to go with it.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
I really appreciate you sharing
Thank
this.
you.
So
Thank
if
you
you want to,
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.